This is the new Audi A5 and we're going to find out if it's any good. We'll check out the redesigned interior, which has 3 screens. We'll see how practical it is. Look, ooh, it's a hatchback. And of course, I'm going to take it for a drive to see what it feels like on the road. But that's not all. I'll be comparing the new A5, which actually is a replacement for the A4, more on that in a bit, against the BMW 3 Series and Mercedes C-Class in a series of tests. Oh, it's spun up its wheels a bit. It's a heavy car. Oh, can you let me out? I'm Matt Watson and you're watching CarWow. Now, in terms of the design and everything, this is all new platform, all new exterior, and there's some good things about this car. The first is, look, real exhaust pipes. Nothing fake about these, they go straight into an exhaust silencer. I like that. Also, the light design on this car is really nice. You've got this huge light bar at the back, and what I'm going to do now is show you the different configurations you can have. There's 8 different choices. The Audi may have a fancy pants light design, but the Mercedes just for me looks a bit more elegant. And the BMW 3 Series, that's just a bit more sporty than the Audi. You know what, there's not much to choose between these cars. None of them offend me, but none of them blow me away either, really. However, I'd be pleased to have any one of them on my drive. But if I was going to pick one in terms of looks, I'm probably going to go with the BMW. How about you guys?
I'll go for the Audi, I think.
Wait. Lewis?
Audi for me.
What? No, I just ignore them. Now let's get on to prices. So the Audi starts from £42,000, though you can save an average of £3,000 off one through CarWow already. BMW starts from £40,000 and you can save an average of £4,000 off one of those through CarWow. Mercedes is a bit more expensive. It starts from £45,000 and there's no savings on Mercedes through CarWow right now. Now the prices of the cars I've actually got here are slightly different. So this is the price of this particular Audi. Now it's the 2-litre diesel with 204 horsepower, it's front wheel drive and it's got a 7-speed automatic gearbox. This BMW costs this much and it's the 2-litre turbo petrol with 184 horsepower, rear wheel drive and an 8-speed automatic gearbox. Now this version of the Mercedes C-Class costs this much because it's the plug-in hybrid. So we've got a 2-litre turbocharged petrol engine mated to an electric motor and combined to have 313 horsepower, drives the rear wheels by a 9-speed automatic gearbox. Now let's compare the car's performance and see how quick they are compared to what the manufacturers say they should do. Audi says this version of the A5 will do 0 to 60 miles an hour in 7.7 seconds. I'm going to launch it, find out what we get. Here we go, 3, 2, 1. Traction, considering it's front wheel drive, is pretty good. What's the performance though? 7.6. This diesel was punchy. So this version of the BMW 3 Series should be able to do 0 to 60 in 7.4 seconds. Let's try it out then. Actually no, it's spun up its wheels a bit. 7.2 to 60. It beat its claim time better than the Audi beat its, if that makes any sense. Gear shifts are on point as well, really smooth and quick. Nice. Finally then, the Mercedes, it's supposed to be the quickest. 0 to 60, 6.3 seconds. Like the BMW, it's rear wheel drive. Let's go. Oh, good traction. Feels quick. Engine sounds good too. Wow. The Mercedes wins the performance test for sure. 0 to 60, 5.6 seconds, which is almost a second quicker than claimed. Wow, that absolutely shot off. Another thing that affects the car's comfort is its brakes. You know, how smooth they are and how good they are at stopping the car. So we're going to find out by comparing each of these 3 cars, starting with the Audi, in a brake test from 60 miles an hour. This Audi does come with regen braking, so the brake pedal can feel a little bit grabby when you're just manoeuvring and going slowly, but let's see what the performance of the brakes are like when you need to do a sudden stop from 60. Let's do it. 3, 2, 1. 35 metres. 35 metres is actually pretty good. The brakes are strong. Now for a brake test in the BMW. So the brakes on this car just feel more natural and progressive than in the Audi, but that's because the Audi has regen braking for its hybrid system. This doesn't, so it's just smoother. Anyway, what's the actual stopping power like? Here we go. 36 metres. Not quite as good as the Audi. Finally, a brake test in the Mercedes. Now it has regen braking like the Audi, and like the Audi they feel a bit grabby, but also weirdly spongy at the same time. But what's the actual performance like? Let's find out. Here we go, going to brake now. It's a heavy car, but it stops, well, 35 metres, same as the Audi. better than the BMW. As well as performance, one of the other things that matters with these kind of cars is the feeling of quality. So I'm going to compare the cars by seeing how well their doors open and close. So the Audi gets off to a great start because it's got these flush door handles which have electronic switches in them to open. So it feels quite expensive, that. But the best bit is the noise when you shut it. Have a listen. Oh, that sounds expensive. Now you'd think the Mercedes will sound even more expensive. Well, actually it doesn't. Also, I don't like the feeling of the handle much either. Finally, the BMW. I prefer the handle than the Mercedes, but I think this door sounds the most rattly. The Audi definitely feels the most expensive to get into, but what's it like on the inside? I'm not sure how I feel about the A5's interior. There's quite a lot going on, and I can see what they're trying to do. It seems high tech, what with one screen here, two screens here, and then an optional third screen there as well. I mean, the materials are generally okay, but then in other places it feels like they've cheaped out over the previous A4. Steering wheel's in odd shape, and what I don't like is these panels here. Now, they're not touch sensitive buttons, but you've basically got one button head which is divided up for controlling different functions. I know why they've done that. It's cheaper than having individual buttons. Also, I think they save money with the new badge design. I don't like it. And there's an air of, you know, cost cutting in here. Maybe it is because what they're trying to do is have an internal combustion engine line of cars and an electric line of cars, and that is just so expensive to produce that they're having to cut costs somewhere. Now, let's talk about the tech. So the screens are very nice and bright. The infotainment system is pretty zippy, though I'm not so keen on the dark graphics that they use here in Audis. And then there's some other bits and pieces, like you've got your wireless charging for your mobile phone, but it's not covered. It is cooled though, which is a good thing, and you've got two USB-Cs there. You've got exposed cup holders there. It'd be good if they were like covered when they're not in use. You've got storage under here, which is, there's not much really. And we've got, come on, good at, there we go. I had to press the button. And then the glove box, it's an okay size, so too are the door bins, but they're not lined with any kind of felt or anything like you get on something like a Volkswagen Golf, to be fair. There's different textures in the jaws, and then once again here we've got this control panel with just one piece of plastic which is divided up into different buttons. And then yes, look, climate controls, no buttons, they're on the screen, so you have to use these here to change the climate, which is harder to do when you're driving than just twiddling a knob. It is quite interesting, but it doesn't feel like a massive leap forward apart from this one feature. So you've got a glass roof, and if I press this button I can remove the shade. It's all like done in the roof itself, there's an actual shade. You can do this, look at this kind of stroppy pattern. Don't know why he did that, but it just kind of looks cool, doesn't it? I find the interior of the BMW 3 Series a little simpler than the Audi, and quality-wise, maybe overall a touch better thanks to real buttons. Well, some real buttons, once again, like the climate is through the infotainment screen. Though the infotainment screen itself, graphics are a little bit bright, I prefer it, apart from the fact it's so confusing. So all these blooming apps and stuff, sometimes you just can't find your way around it, and that is annoying. But overall, I prefer this cabin. As a thing to sit in, this Mercedes feels the most interesting. I just prefer the design of the other two cars. It's just got so much more oomph about it. Now, I know some people don't like the infotainment system. It's like an iPad that's been stuck on, but I find it the easiest to use. And I like the digital dials as well, nice and clear. The only thing that I don't really like are the touch-sensitive buttons on the steering wheel, which are too easy to accidentally press a function when you didn't mean to. And the fact that in certain places, the quality is just not becoming of a Mercedes. Like certain pieces of trim just are horrible. Look at this, like, yeah, shame. But overall, this is my favourite interior. There's a decent amount of space here in the back of the Audi. Knee room's all right. Headroom, I think it's a bit tighter than the old A4 because of the sloping roof line, but it should still be fine for people over 6 foot. Slight issue with foot space. It does feel a bit cramped in there, but it's not terrible. And the seats themselves are quite comfy. Plus, if you need to carry little children, like you've got ISOFIX here, which are easy to get to. And you also have ISOFIX on the front passenger seat. Other areas of practicality, the door bins are big here. You've got nets there. You've got some cup holders there. You've got through loading here like that. You've also got two USB-Cs there. This particular car has climate control in the back and heated seats. And look, we have some blinds as well. One thing that's not great though, the windows only go down that far. Question is though, how does the BMW compare? Well, do you know what? I think overall it just feels a touch more roomy, especially in terms of headspace. I'd rather go a longer distance in the back of this car in terms of the space than the Audi. The Mercedes is a bit of an odd one because, well, I think knee room's fine, headroom's very good really for this kind of car. There's something about the footwell and the shape of the seats means that the position I'm in here.
Subscribe to this service. To use it, You first have to activate the service in the Mercedes Me app.
That's the car's infotainment system. Whenever you say the M word, it will speak to you. Actually, it sometimes just speaks to you anyway, regardless. But what I was trying to say is, for some reason, this just feels less comfortable than the other two. However, there is something else to consider. How comfortable are these cars when you're actually moving? Let's start with the Audi. What I'm going to do is use my phone to measure the vibrations in each car when travelling along a bumpy stretch of road at 60 miles an hour. So we'll just get up to speed and I'll start this, then hold it down the seat. Right, here we go. Let's reset it. Let's go. It's always worse in the back seat. It's a good place to test it. So I'll get an average reading of 4.1 and a maximum of 6. Right, go to the vibratometer test on the BMW. Same speed, same road. What we're going to get. There we go. It's noticeably more bumpy. We've got a mean of 4.5 and a max of 7.5. Woohoo! Finally, let's check out how smooth the Mercedes is. Okay, so that's really interesting. So average is the same as the Audi, 4.1, but the maximum was 5.4, which was slightly less than the Audi. I think that's because the suspension does feel softer, and so when you go over bigger bumps, it doesn't bounce quite so much. One thing you do get more with this than the Audi is a movement rocking from side to side. That doesn't really show on there. I also tested how quiet these cars are with the sound meter. The Audi averaged 82.2 decibels, the BMW was slightly louder at 82.4 decibels, but then I tested the Mercedes. Let's do this.
How may I help you?
Shut up.
What can I do for you?
That's super interesting. I've got an average figure of 82.1, so that's the lowest, 0.1 less than the Audi, and the minimum and max are the same as the Audi. So the reality is that overall, based on science, the Mercedes is ever so slightly more relaxing than the Audi, but they're both noticeably more relaxing than the BMW. One of the good things about the A5 is that unlike the A4, which was a saloon, this is a hatchback, so it's got a lift tailgate and you can open it hands-free. Look, you see that little pattern there on the floor, that little light? I'll just kick at it and the boot should open. Should. What's going on? Let's try again with the car locked. Does anyone know why it's not doing it? This is embarrassing. Audi. Anyway, I'll do it on the key. Nice, practical, easy to load hatchback. We've got 445 litres of space. Now, there is no false floor to... how do you get this out? There we go, to put the load cover under. But look at that space you've got there, really usable. And we have tie down points, we have nets, we have seats you can fold down, come on. And they lie fairly flat, look at that. Oh, come on. Ah, there we go. Absolutely acres of space. Room enough for me. Can you let me out?
2 hours later.
I think we've got it now. Just, have we though? Yes, we've got it! Operator error. Why do I need to move this far away? Why? In terms of outright capacity, the BMW 3 Series has the bigger boot at 480 litres, but it's just not as usable as the A5s because the opening isn't so wide, and look, when you fold the seats down, there's only certain things you can fit in there because you have to squeeze them underneath that metal bar. The Mercedes actually has the worst boot here, and that's because this particular version is the plug-in hybrid. So normally it'd have 455 litres of space, but because there's batteries underneath here, it's only got 315. It suffers from the same problem as the BMW, regardless of whether you have the plug-in hybrid or not, and it's the fact that it's a Mercedes, you use an electrical button to lower the seats. But yeah, same thing again, there's only certain things you're going to be able to squeeze through that gap. The Audi is the most practical, though obviously with all these cars you can get an estate version, and that's what you do if you want the most practical model. This A5 is a nice car to drive. It feels sensible, it seems grown up, it feels comfortable, it feels luxurious, yet it can also handle its own when you go down a twisty road. I mean, it doesn't brim with fun, but it does the job. And that's kind of what you want from this sort of car if you're buying it to do lots and lots of miles and just get to your destination unflustered. Will you have fun doing it? Well, you'll feel relaxed, but it's not going to get your heart racing in a good way. I appreciate these kind of cars more the older I get. It's nice to have a diesel engine under the bonnet just chugging away, though when you floor the throttle it does make a bit of a noise. But the gear shifts are good and everything just feels pretty solid, well made. The only slight issue I have with this car really in terms of overall practicality when you're driving it is that the view out the back window is pretty poor. I like it, it's just not very exciting. But what's the BMW like in comparison? Well, it's clear this car has been set up with a different vibe. It almost feels like from a different category than the Audi. You see, it's clearly designed to be fun to drive. As a result, the suspension just feels firmer, feels more tied down. The whole car is just more responsive to your inputs. Now that is good if you enjoy blasting a car down a back road. However, it does mean the car is a little less relaxing to just travel from A to B than the Audi. Even though, like the Audi, this car is fitted with adaptive dampers, it just seems to bounce about a little bit more. Now, I don't find it too terrible, and if I was only going to have one car, I think I'd pick this over the Audi just because it gives a better blend and breadth in terms of a usable car, but one that is also fun when the opportunity presents itself. However, as I'm a bit older and I do have some other cars in my garage which are primarily designed for a sporty drive, for those longer journeys, I'd rather be in the Audi. But you know what? If I wasn't a motoring journalist and I had to buy a car in this category, it'd be this one. Finally, we come to the Mercedes. So this feels like quite a different car to the other two. It's much, I wouldn't say softer, but there's something a bit more lolloping about it. Now this could be due to the fact that this particular car is a plug-in hybrid, and because of the batteries on board, it's by far and away the heaviest. And this means it just seems more ponderous, less agile. The suspension feels reasonably soft, but then it is fitted with air suspension at the rear. There's no adaptability to the air suspension though, so you can't alter the stiffness. But compared to the other two cars, it does have a softer edge, though occasionally it will still feel a little bit jarring when you hit a bigger bump. I do quite like driving around in this thing. There's just something about cruising about in a Mercedes-Benz. However, if I'm being super critical, I don't think it feels quite as smooth or as solid or as composed as the Audi, and nowhere near as sporty as the BMW, even though, like that car, it's rear-wheel drive, not front-wheel drive like the Audi.
You have not subscribed to this service. To use it, you first have to activate the service in the Mercedes Me app.
And that's always a problem with this car. The infotainment system always just seems to chime in uninvited. And another problem with this car, plug-in hybrids, I'm not a fan. I think they're the worst of all worlds. You've got an internal combustion engine, but you're also carrying around a battery, which is added weight. The only reason to have one is because you pay less in company car tax than a normal internal combustion engine car, and you don't have the range anxiety like you do with an electric car. But really, if it was me, I wouldn't have a plug-in hybrid. It's a shame. We should really be driving the normal version of the Mercedes. I'd prefer it.
How can I help?
So then, the new Audi A5. It's a good car, however it doesn't really move the game on all that much. And I think overall, I'd rather have a BMW 3 Series. It is ever so slightly better than the Mercedes C-Class though not by much.